Hi everyone, welcome to our Children's Advent Book Club. I'm so happy that you're joining me today. I have a really great book to share. I also hope that you got an Advent box and have started on some of the crafts in that. As you can see, I have my paper wreath. That was one of the crafts in the Advent box. I'd love if you could send me pictures of yours if you finished them. So today we're going to read a story that I thought related to our theme this week, our Advent theme. Every week of Advent has a different theme. So this theme is hope, and this theme is also keeping awake to possibilities in our lives and things happening in the world that, we might not always recognize on a normal day. So today we're reading this wonderful book, and it's a true story about the author's life, Dr. Tererai Trent. And the book about her life is called The Girl Who Buried Her Dreams in a Can.
She was supposed to be a boy. Her parents even chose a respectful Shona name fitting a boy, Turoi Shoko Romori, meaning listen to the word of the Spirit. But on this cold winter morning in a small village in what is now Zimbabwe, she emerged, a ball of fire as brilliant as the sunrise. The baby's grandmother quickly snipped the birth cord and wrapped it tightly inside a piece of cloth torn from the mother's dress. She buried the cord deep beneath the red earth. "This is our ancient way," the grandmother said. "The child whose birth cord is buried in the ground will always remember her home." The little girl grew up in a hut, its roof thatched with grass and its walls made of mud. Each day she tended to the family's cattle and fetched water and firewood from many miles away. Sometimes she ran into older boys carrying books on their way to school. Oh, how she longed to trade her firewood for books. But for most little girls in her village, learning and school were badagon, impossible. If families had any money for school, they sent boys. Girls were needed at home to cook, clean, and bring supplies. Every woman in the little girl's family had heard the word badagon. It was never more painful than when the little girl watched her aunt's dark eyes fill with tears because she couldn't read a letter from her husband. She had no choice but to ask a stranger to read it aloud. "This shouldn't be," the little girl shouted to her mother and grandmother. The women agreed. "We need a young woman to be our eyes, to read and write for us." Her grandmother said, "Maybe it will be you, dear child." The little girl decided she would be their eyes. She would learn to read and write. She borrowed her brother's school book and flipped through the crisp pages. It was filled with pictures of people smiling, big cities, and tall buildings. Her brother Tinashi called the book by a funny name, geography. My, how that word tickled her tongue. "I will teach you to read and write," he said, "but you must keep it a secret, and you must do something for me in return." The little girl grinned and made a promise. Tinashi taught the little girl how to read in the Shona way, through song. She learned the vowels and consonants, tracing each letter in her brother's workbook as she sang their sounds. Just as she learned how to sew cloth to make a quilt, the little girl learned how to sew vowels and consonants together to make words. Oh, how the letters held secrets in the way they formed words, and the words held secrets in the way they told stories. Sometimes she focused so intently on her lessons, she'd forget to watch the cattle, leaving them to stray and graze in neighboring maize fields. The little girl learned quickly. Soon she could read the words Baba and Ami, the Shona words for mother and father. And she learned to complete Tinashe's homework, her payment for the reading lessons. When Tinashe's teacher discovered the sibling's secret, he begged the little girl's father to let her attend school. But before the little girl could enroll, she was asked to perform a test, as every child must. She stretched each arm around her head one at a time to touch the end of her earlobes. If she could reach, she was ready. Oh, how happy she was when she felt the tips of her earlobes with her fingers. The little girl loved learning so much that she couldn't bear to stop when the school day was over. The maize fields became her classroom, and the cattle became her students. She gave her students names and taught them science and math, her favorite subjects. As she solved math problems with her grazing cattle, the other village children pointed and stared. "Why does she bother to talk to animals?" they'd say. "They can't learn." Soon after the little girl started school, her village began to change. War and drought pushed the men of the village into the factories of the city and the gold mines near the mountains. When they returned, they rested under the broad leaves of the mucha-acha trees. They hung battery-operated radios from branches, enjoying the news of the world. As the little girl did her homework, she'd listen too. The radio programs took her to faraway places: Australia, Europe, America. She wondered if she'd ever see them. Moons rose and set, and the little girl became a young woman, a wife and a mother. Her village became something new as well. The end of the war brought hope and change for the next generation of boys and girls. The young mother's heart grew each time she sent her children to school. She fed and loved them as she fed and loved her dream of learning. Others fed her dream too. Zimbabwe welcomed strangers from faraway lands, educated men and women who had come to learn more about the young mother's village and share stories of other countries. One story stole the young mother's heart. In America, both men and women could study their favorite subjects for as long as they wanted. Before she knew it, her dream had grown. An education, but in America. A kind visitor named Joe Luck took the young woman's hand. "If you truly desire this dream," she said, "then it's achievable." "Achievable?" the young woman repeated. "Tingona?" she whispered in Shona. What a powerful word for a dreamer. The young woman ran to tell her mother. "You must write down your dreams and bury them beneath the ground," her mother said. "Mother Earth will feed them and help them grow." It was an ancient ritual, like the burying of the birth cord. Trust the universe, daughter, to honor your dreams. The young woman quickly scribed 4 dreams on a scrap of paper. To travel to America, to earn 1 degree, then a second, even higher, then a third, the highest. She placed the paper in a worn tin can. "Wait," her mother called. "Your dreams will have little meaning, daughter, unless they bring gifts you can return to your people. Always remember your home." So she added a 5th dream: to give education back to her village. Then she buried her can in the field where she had once watched the cattle graze. Tingona, she sang. It was a special day when the young woman received a letter with a strange stamp and a university seal at the top. After years of studying and hard work, she was finally going to America. But before she could pack her bags, the young woman needed more money for travel. How could she get it? The young woman's mother visited the headman of the village. He had great respect for the young woman and her buried dreams. Without her knowledge, the headman asked each villager to give whatever they could to make the young woman's journey possible. Some sold their chickens, mangoes, and ground nuts to help her. Others gave pennies as a symbol of their love and support. Her dreams were coming true. When the young woman boarded the plane to America, she thought of her mother. When she started her first day of school, she imagined her brother's face. When she found herself at the university library late at night, she remembered her village. When she struggled to put food on the table for her children, she recalled Joe Whitlock's words. And whenever she felt her dream slipping away, she whispered, Tingona. It was achievable. The young woman earned 1 degree, then a second even higher, then a third the highest. And finally her dream was fulfilled. She brought education to the little girls and boys of Zimbabwe, as she had promised many moons ago.
As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, the theme this week is about hope and keeping awake to the possibilities in the world and keeping awake to God's dream for us and the new life that's emerging all around us. And sometimes we only see possibilities for dreams when we step out of our own lives and learn about other people's lives and experiences. And the little girl in this book did that by going to school and by reading. So I'm wondering what you have learned about the world, what new possibilities you have seen from reading. In this story, the little girl has big, huge dreams for her future. And she decides to write down those dreams and put them in the jar and bury them in the ground. I kind of think about this like sometimes when I start a yoga class, the teacher says that we should set an intention for the class. Or sometimes it's like making a goal in your life. You just put it out there and somehow that helps it move that dream forward. So I wonder what your dreams for yourself for the future are. I wonder what you would bury in that jar. Before the little girl buries her dreams, her mother says, "Stop." She says, "Your dreams will only have an impact if you also make a dream for the people around you, for your community, and what they might need." So I wonder if you could think about your community, the people around you, the world, and what they need. And what would your dream be for the future? I wonder what dream for your community you would put inside of that jar. I learned a new word in this book, and that word is badagon. And badagon means impossible. And sometimes in our lives, whether we're kids or we're adults, we think of something and we dream about it, but it seems so outlandish and so impossible. But sometimes in our lives, dreams do come true that we thought might be impossible. So I wonder if you have ever had any of those badagon impossible dreams that have actually come true. Thank you so much for joining me this week. I really miss seeing all of you in person. And I hope you got the Advent boxes we handed out with the crafts and the star words and the activities. I'd love it if you make one of these wreaths. If you haven't got an Advent box yet, we still have some, so you can email me and I will be sure that we will find a way to get one to you. We will end every week by lighting a candle on our Advent wreath. This week is hope. So enjoy your week, and I hope to see you next Sunday.
I dream to keep awake, because if we don't dream of better days, then we might forget that this is not what God imagined. So today we light the candle of hope, for hope is the very thing that keeps dreams afloat. May this light be an invitation to keep awake. May this light be our invitation to be Advent people, people who dream. Amen.